All right, in the meantime, we were telling you about Kamala Harris. She had time and will be making time to talk to party donors. But before that, a little ice cream. Take a peek. My view on this is, in the middle of a potential constitutional crisis, there is always time for ice cream. Just remember that. All right, Don Peebles subscribes to that view, the former Barack Obama fundraiser, People's Corporation, founder and CEO. You're watching this play out, not the ice cream part, but it is a little slippery slope here, so I'll play off the theme. This meeting with donors, hastily arranged, it might have been originally planned to include the president. I take nothing away from that. But it is building here. And I don't know whether it's a jailbreak of support for the president, away from the president, but what do you make of it?
But you touched on loyalty, so clearly disloyalty. But I think that there's panic. I mean, this has been the worst process I've seen in my lifetime.
Really?
And I've never seen such a chaotic circular firing squad. Joe Biden started losing this election when he got into office. The policies that he implemented, the border crises, the migrant crises that has created an almost unlivable environment in major cities around the country, like San Francisco and New York. The attacks on Trump, trying to vilify him, then trying to bankrupt him, then trying to put him in jail. And so they've not once articulated a vision of where they want to take America in the next 4 years. Is that a failure on
his part, though, Don? And that's why they want to switch horses now? Or is it just like rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic? It's not going to make a difference.
I don't think it makes a difference at all. I think that the idea, I think that they've got to come to the realization that many of their policies are being rejected by America. And Biden was trailing and Trump was winning in essentially every battleground state before the debate. He just opened up a little bit better lead after the debate. So I don't understand what's really changed, except that now they're being discovered as have lied to the public for so long about his cognitive abilities. And now they're panicking, and I think that they are at a big risk of losing the Senate, and that's a highly likely scenario.
But he's got to be the one to say, all right, I'll go.
But why should he go?
Right, I understand. But it's not something you can force on him, right? He's got to be the one to step down, right?
Well, they're doing their best to try to force it on him. Former President Obama indicated that the pathway is very difficult yesterday, saying it publicly.
What did you make of that? He's your friend. He abandoned you.
I don't think he abandoned him. I think he's trying to be realistic.
That's another word for abandoning him.
But right? I think the question is, okay, if his pathway to victory is very challenged, who has a better pathway? I mean, I don't think there's anybody that would be able to be more competitive than President Biden, other than maybe Michelle Obama. I think they've put themselves in such a difficult position. Kamala Harris being the nominee doesn't do really anything for the party. That's who voters are going to look at as being the potential president anyway, because of Biden's age and his health. And so putting her forward, I mean, I don't think that happens. So I think if he withdraws, I think that they're going to be looking for a complete change, and it'll be chaotic.
All right. Well, the donors obviously are all about money and support. It's seamless if you go to someone like Kamala Harris, because she partakes in the dough that Joe Biden has, right? But a lot of them are very concerned. So tell me how you think that meeting is going with her. What do you guys discuss? Donors, more to the point, when they meet with a prospective candidate.
I think they'll be polite, ask about a pathway to win, and I would ask her.
But they want her to be that pathway.
I'm not sure the donors want her to be that pathway.
But it's an implosion if they pass over her for someone else, assuming they get their way and dump Joe Biden.
Not necessarily. It could be the governor of Michigan and the governor of Maryland.
How do you think that's going to sit with Kamala Harris and her supporters and backers? That's a pretty big slap in the face.
Wes Moore would be a much more competitive.
The Maryland governor.
Yes. Wes Moore, the Maryland governor, would be a much more competitive vice presidential candidate. He would pair well against.
At all? Why have a ticket at all if you're going to rearrange it and do things after the fact?
Oh, I couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah.
I think that Biden won all the primaries.
Right.
He deserves to be the nominee, and he is the best case scenario right now. But there is an alternative. I think if he goes and this ticket goes, then I think they're looking to rearrange the chairs entirely. And then I would think that Wes Moore would be highly considered. And I think Governor Whitmer would be as well, even though she says she doesn't want it. But, you know, I think if presented to her, she would. But again, I think it would have to be Michelle Obama, and she says she doesn't want it either.
But isn't it weird that this election year started out with everyone thinking, oh, the Republicans were going to be all over each other, killing each other, never getting anything done, not remotely united. They're as thick as thieves right now, very united. And the Democrats that thought they were going to waltz into another renominating process that would be more like a coronation, they're the ones fighting with each other.
Yeah, but again, the Republicans have had a pattern of being loyal. They're loyal to their nominees. They're loyal to their candidates. Think about George Bush. George Herbert Walker Bush stuck it out with Clarence Thomas. He's still on the Supreme Court. Bill Clinton had to go through 3 attorney general nominees to get one because he kept dropping them. I mean, this party does need to be loyal and respect the process.
Message that could be corrosive down the road, however this is settled.
Yes, and then also the lack of respect for the process and the American voters who voted for Joe Biden.
Okay, just wild stuff. Don, thanks for stopping by.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.